What's up, everybody? It's the Hardy Construction. You can find us at hardyconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/hardyconstruction, as well as facebook.com/the Hardy Construction with your host, Comp, and
fermented cod liver oil.
And today's film is
GYO, Tokyo Fish Attack.
2012. GYO Tokyo Fish Attack is a film that is based on the comic by Junji Ito. It's directed by Takayuki Hirao.
Got it.
It's funny, I had the problem right now, even though I just explained the whole Japanese phonics to Danny a couple minutes ago.
Worked on Japanese phonics.
The friends Kaori, Erika, and Aki are on a vacation to celebrate their upcoming graduation when suddenly an infestation of mysterious walking fish forces them to reevaluate everything they care about in order to stay alive. Gah. Anyway, maybe one person cares about it. Whoever wrote that.
That's not true at all. I mean, kind of.
So the film is like it's about an hour and 10 minutes, right? It's actually an animated. It's an animated film. It's Japanese animation, basically anime, based on a manga, like I said, by this amazing comic book artist from Japan called Junji Ito, who's he basically does horror manga.
Now he created Tomy, I was reading.
Yes, he was a creator of Tomy. He
which is a movie we should do eventually.
Right. There's and Tomy is a mainstay in Japan. There's so many Tomy films in Japan. There's Tomy is like their James Bond. No, actually, their James Bond is like whatever, some samurai film character. Who's that blind samurai? That's their James Bond. This is more like their Saw, because they keep making the Tomy films over and over. Like, they just keep adapting. And I actually read the Tomy comic books. I'm just going to get a little bit into...
Is it a full comic book, or is it like...
Yeah, it's actually... Yeah, it is. It's a series of graphic novels. I think there's 3 of them, and I think it's called Museum of Terror. You can get them at the public library.
Can I get them at the museum?
Yes, you can. They bring you to your own wing, and you can read it by yourself like a loser. The Tomy books, if anybody knows, just to get into Junji Ito's manga, Tomy is this other book where there's basically this woman who every man becomes obsessed with, and every girl is jealous of, and they always, either side either kills her, but she always comes back, and you can split her in half, and she's just immortal, and there'll be 2 Tomys and 3 Tomys, and if you get a blood transfusion, you become Tomy. It's that kind of...
That many more vaginas.
That many more, and it's actually really good, so I recommend Museum of Terror, but Junji Ito does these great comic books. He's one of 3... I think, of my favorite Japanese manga horror guys, because Japanese, they know how to do really cool manga in Japan, where it's like horrific and scary, kind of like when you read it, it's kind of chilling. I think it kind of gets lost in translation in this adaptation of the work. But
this one in particular, or in general?
In this one, I think there's plenty of Japanese cartoons that kind of get the idea of making something spooky, but this one, in his work, this is like the first work of his that I've seen that's animated based on his work, so you would think it's closer to the source material, but it's not really, which is strange. And
I was reading, and it seems they made up quite a bit for this movie.
Yeah, because I read the comic book a long time ago, and GYO is basically... do you want to set up what happens in the anime?
Yeah, it's these 3 girls in a summer home that's... I guess it's... what's his name?
Tadashi.
The fiance's summer home.
It's
Kaori. They're on vacation because they're about to graduate.
Kaori is basically the protagonist. She's like this girl with long black hair who looks like Tomy. Because the thing with Junji Ito's work is that all his characters kind of look the same. All his characters.
Maybe he's like obsessed with this girl that rejected him.
But all the girls in his every character in his comics look like fashion models. They're like they're drawn really aesthetically pretty looking, but he just has the same face for every character. But I mean, that's whatever. But anyway, the protagonist is Kaori. Erika is I think the bitch of the group, right? She's kind of this stuck-up girl.
And then we got the other one, like Aki or
Aki,
or
yeah.
something.
Aki is the chubby girl who's excuse me, I'm not body shaming. I mean the pleasantly plump girl. And
she's curvy.
Yes, she's curvy in all the right places. Anyway, so Danny, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, what?
Explain the rest of the storyline that they're visiting the
fiance's
uncle's summer house.
Basically, it sets it up that this Erika's a bitch, blah blah blah, and then there's like a they go in the summer home and it smells like poo.
Yeah, rotting bodies,
there's a fish
right?
in there legs.
Yeah, it's weird because in the comic book it's totally different. Tadashi is in this film version, Kaori, who they make her the main character in the comic book, she's an insufferable bitch. She's just so annoying, and she's such an asshole in the comic book. Like you wonder why Tadashi's with her in the comic because she's like a really demanding asshole in the comic book. And in the comic book version, Tadashi and her, there's no Aki and there's no Erika with them. They just
Aki is here in Spanish, I believe.
Yes, it is, but with Q and U and I instead of a K and I. So you're absolutely wrong. So they're in the comic book. They go to Tadashi's uncle's summer home, and they do battle with this fish. But anyway, in this animated version, the girls are there while Tadashi's back in Tokyo. They're, I guess, I don't know, really in Japan. There's like seaside areas that you can fly. I guess there's like California.
He's a sound engineer or something.
Yeah, there you go. I knew you probably perked up when you saw that. It's like, this is me. This is my life. It's my world, but Japanese. They do the same things as us. They're humans.
Wow, they're just like us.
We shouldn't have bombed them. Anyway, so they're the girls are there in the house, and they start seeing this little thing skidding around. They think it's like a rat or something, but it's actually a fish with bionic legs, right? We don't know at the beginning.
Does it have bionic lungs? Or I guess it's being powered by the gas. So
yeah, it's a weird concept for like a creature. I think it's a pretty interesting concept for like a monster. But
it's really like, I mean, when you think about it, it's like we crawled out of the ocean, so it's kind of a cool, that makes sense. That
like an evolution kind of thing. I mean, there's an issue that I have with it that doesn't make any sense. Well, I mean, the whole movie probably doesn't make any sense, but the issue of the mechanics of the monster. But we'll get into that. Anyway, so the three girls kill this fish, Kiori bags it up to throw it away. But these fish are filled with some sort of gas that is actually
stinky gas.
It smells like rotting bodies. And it's funny because this is the only movie where they use visual fart gags, but it's not done out of humor, and it's not necessarily funny. It's just more like yuck. It's more like disgusting.
Yeah.
When everybody else would use it as a cheap gag. I can imagine if
there is at least one person who was jerking off when Erica was farting.
How much you want to bet, like, if Michael Bay had those fart jokes, it would just be like fart jokes.
Like explosions coming out of her butt. and the fish would like transform into like the size of a building and like shoot fire.
Well, they kind of did in this one. They actually did do that in this film. They did turn into some sort of transformer at the end. But anyway, the creatures are basically are the whole sea life. We get to see all these fish crawl out of the water, and they have these sort of spider appendages in the bottom half of them. And what we find out is that it's actually a World War II experiment where it was some sort of methane gas, I believe, that had a germ in it, right? That kind of controlled the whole body.
They were trying to create a virus that would cause a very smelly gas and infect people, and then it backfired on them, basically.
Right.
Well, backfired on the whole world. And
in the comic book, it's explained a little bit better that they created this, and it was basically a World War II, an experiment in World War II where they actually...
We should never have bombed them.
So anyway, they were having problems fighting the U.S. troops, so they tried to infect the animals with this gas that kind of like stink them out. I guess like huge stink
it kind
bombs.
of looked like maybe the Irken race, like from Invader Zim. Like
yeah.
It looked like that kind of.
Yeah,
with
the two mighty.
Maybe that was their ultimate plan. Like Zim finally won.
With the two tallest there. So anyway, yes. In the original one, they planned on releasing animals to go, I guess, chase and stink out the enemy, which is, I guess, as good as any other, army tactic, like the gay bomb. You remember the gay bomb? You ever heard about that one?
No, what's that?
That's a real thing where they used pheromones, and they would send, like, a pheromone bomb, and it would explode on the enemy territory and turn them all gay towards each other.
Is this real?
Yes, it really is. Look it up. Google. It's called a gay bomb. I don't know if they ever did it. I don't know if they ever did it or they thought about it, but apparently the whole idea was all the pheromones would turn everybody on so much that they would be like ravishing each other, and then we could take them over. That's true, so just look that up.
Ridiculous. Okay.
I just picture, you ever see Police Academy whenever they went into the Blue Oyster? You know that? It was like a gay bar. It was a great movie. Anyway. So so they released these animals, but the animals would get paralyzed after a minute. After a while, they would run out of their gas and just kind of drop on the floor and be immobile, and then it renders them pointless. So they decided to create these little bionic machines that the animals could get strapped to.
But then they say at
Right.
some point that they're not man-made.
That's where it separates from the comic book. I read the comic book a long time ago. I just brushed up to the first 5 chapters. It's about 17 or 19 chapters. And in the anime, they change it so that, it might be from the sea. I'm like, how the fuck could that form in the sea? It's obviously got gears.
Pollution created our worst nightmare.
Yeah, but that's way too far-fetched, even for me, for a cartoon to do. Like, can the sea...
The part where Erica is kicking Iggy in the face, I was just laughing and laughing.
Oh, it's great.
That was the funniest thing. I rewound it like 3 times.
It's very funny stuff in there. But so anyway, the creatures. The only thing I don't understand is that the creatures will get, like, did they throw, like, did the Japanese throw all those like bionic bodies into the water, and then the fish just happened to latch onto them? Because the machines themselves, you can get latched onto it. They'll like be like a Venus flytrap. If you step on it, they'll kind of clamp on your leg or something if you step on it.
Yeah, and if you get stabbed with it, it infects you.
Because they show after a while, if a creature, like if a fish is stuck on it, well, it has that gas on it, it'll explode due to the gases being... Because they have ports on them, so inside the machines, they have these tubes that'll go into your mouth and up your ass, basically.
And then at one point, tell me if this is in the comic, at one point in the circus, they like put fire on it, you can see all these souls.
Yeah, that's in there. I remember that specifically because I thought that was probably the stupidest thing in the comic book. I think that was just put there to be creepy. Like Junji Ito said, I got to figure this out of some scary part. That's my French accent. And it just seems like it comes out of nowhere. It's like, why the fuck did somebody take the time to build a circus in the middle of the city? Because that happens in the comic book. And I was like, watching the film, I knew they like adapted stuff and switched it around. I was like, maybe they'll just get rid of that stupid fucking circus part because it made no sense in the comic book. And I was like, well, that's the one thing that they keep from the fucking comic that's in this that makes absolutely no sense. Like, the idea of burning the gas and it looks like creatures, like alien, that's cool. But the rest of it, of like 4 guys holding it up.
I thought they were implying that it was like human souls or something, or like hell or something.
I don't know, but human souls inside of a fish, and what the fuck would that be?
Well, like the gas itself is like
well, I guess.
Souls. I don't know.
I guess, but they're trying to say it's more of an extraterrestrial kind of intergalactic thing that's going on. They say it's not of human origin. But anyway, in the anime,
so it is the Arkan army.
Yeah, right. It is them. It's the tallest. It's them, and then you see a small alien with
plan, I'm telling you.
It's true, man. He's so good. John, what's his name? Jonan Vasquez. He's not doing anything. He's kind of just jerking around.
Working on that show, supposedly.
Yeah, because there's too much work.
Just kept neutering him the whole time.
Yeah, but he's not fucking doing anything else. He's not doing anything. He's just kind of going around to conventions. He doesn't do anything else.
I always hear rumors that he might do something, and then
he never does. Until I see it, he did I think all he did was that. What was that video game that just came out? Bio, the one where you're like a big robot and you gotta like protect little girls. Bio something, whatever. Fuck it.
No idea.
Huh?
I don't know.
Whatever. BioShock. He did some like art for one of them, part 2, I think.
Okay.
And it looked like completely different than anything he's done before. It looked like. Because he kind of has that underground comic book look. It looked amazing. So just look up Jonan Vasquez BioShock. It looks great. Anyway, so if this eventually we see it's the whole deal of Kaori looking for her fiance, trying to get back to Tokyo. And I tell you, I've never seen so many characters get thrown around, their asses kicked, and they just get up. Like, I mean, they're getting like Dragon Ball Z level of brutality, like unleashed on them.
Trucks bitten by sharks and shit, and they're still okay.
Because Kaori ends up meeting, I believe a guy named Shirakawa. I think is the guy. Is that right?
A reporter.
Yeah, he's like an undercover reporter, and we see that he has some connection to her fiance. She doesn't know because he's trying to kind of collect information to make a story based on this whole this tragedy. It's basically a worldwide tragedy because everywhere from they're in a seaside town in Japan. And the fish come in and they start invading the streets, and they're running around and everything. And if you get stabbed by the gears of the machines that the fish are on, you get infected. And it looks weird because the infection looks like some sort of mathematical equation on your arm when you get caught by it. And then you start turning green and you get full of gas, and then you just start.
It was pretty cool, the Erica transformation scene.
Like, this anime is it's not necessarily scary. The idea of it is scary more than it is in effect because it's animated, I guess. I mean, I've seen some...
The whole premise is, like, pretty silly, actually. When you told it to me, I was like thinking it was gonna be so dumb, but it was actually pretty.
It's
cool,
a pretty interesting, yeah. It's an interesting idea. It kind of has the execution of probably a better episode of The Walking Dead. Do you know what I mean? It's basically a zombie film, but it's done with fish. And the reason why Junji Ito made the idea was that he said he saw Jaws, and he said, "Man, that's a scary movie." But imagine if the fucking shark could actually go on the street. So I guess he, you know.
Right.
So I mean, which is kind of, it is very scary because there's that whole idea of a giant great white shark running in at the very beginning. It's like the first kind of conflict with this.
I didn't like that they used CGI.
I wasn't really aware of the CGI, but yeah, you're right. With the shark, that was like a lot of CGI on that shark running
and like
around.
the airplane scenes and shit, there was like too much CGI. Like it was all really cool, and then they're doing CGI, and it's just like obviously takes away.
Yeah,
from
because I think it would have been fucking forever if it was to draw all those fish running around. I'm sure, yeah, all the fish in the movie are basically CGI because there's hundreds of thousands of them on screen at one time. And I can imagine if this was done in the 80s, if it was done by like the guy who did Akira, like that guy would have fucking had actually like all of them in their hand drawn.
Like the guy who did like Spirited Away.
Yeah,
I can't think of what his name is, but
Hayao Miyazaki or like
Hayao Miyazaki. If he did it, supposedly he retired. That's very sad.
Nah, he's gonna come back. He doesn't give a shit. He's gonna just keep making movies forever. And in this, there's a lot of CGI. It's the animation, like the way it looks, is very flat, but it's serviceable. I think they kind of, you know, it's not bad. It's not horrible animation. It's not the best animation, but it's not like really shit like fucking.
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it's nothing so special.
Yeah, it's not like animation snobs.
Cool.
It's about the level of a episode of Batman the animated series, kind of in Japan version, because everybody.
The WB one.
The good one, the one that was on Fox, sort of.
Yeah, the Fox and WB. They
right.
Kind of were both equally good.
And it's good animation. I like it. I think the tone of it is pretty cool because it takes itself seriously, even when the characters are getting all fucked. There is a threesome in it, which I remember when I saw the teaser for it, I was like, "What the fuck? There's people getting fucked in this like that? Like that one girl's like a really horny girl, Erica."
It was just strange though, because after seeing a fish with legs, you wouldn't be thinking about having a threesome.
But Japan has to fit it in some way. I wonder why they took that kind of direction with the story where they made the girl the protagonist of it, which is not a problem for me. Actually, I didn't have that many problems with the changes of it. It's just that it shifted the focus on those two other characters who don't have any relevance in the book at all. And it's mostly Tadashi and his girlfriend. In the comic book, Tadashi's with his girlfriend. She's a fucking asshole. She gets infected and she turns into that creature. And he's running around trying to figure out what's going on. And he decides to look for a cure at the end and kind of cuts off.
That the uncle goes like insane. And
yeah,
he
goes
kind of like a madman.
Yeah, he goes insane in the comic book too, and it's basically that.
That's what I'm saying. In the comic book, he's more insane.
Yeah, so they flip it and try to make it more cinematic. I mean, it's 19 chapters of a comic. I think you could have just adapted that. I guess I don't know what the choice was, but I guess they would rather see a female protagonist in a horror film to identify with or to get women to see it.
He's obsessed with that little girl that rejected him in elementary school, and he's always trying to depict her on film dying in various ways.
The girl does look like Tomy, but I thought I actually liked the idea of the anime. Like it's hard for me to find like anime, like Japanese anime that has horror that's like serious with it. Like I know you were mentioning Vampire Hunter D, which is a very big like thing in Japan. It's that's more of like an adventure kind of horror with horror elements in it. So it's like I can't really compare it to anything in American cinema because it's more of adventure. It's just imagine like if it was a vampire doing Indiana Jones kind of shit. You know what I mean? And this film, I'm sure there's a lot of them. I'll try to look for more because I think it'd be cool to throw in some weird shit now and then like this. But I think it's a good indicator of like Japanese anime when it's like dark and it's disturbing. It is basically
kind of funny.
Yeah, it is basically a zombie film, but with a fish as monsters. And
and the part with like you see Erica's butt and there's like a tube going up it.
Yeah, and there's mass destruction. You see people getting destroyed. I mean, these characters are basically how Brad Pitt was in World War Z. Like he survives everything.
Don't mention that part.
No, it just reminds me when they're on the train and the train gets derailed by, I guess they must have run over a fish. I don't know how. I don't understand how all these fish can
Fish are quite slippery.
Yeah, but that means like I would think they would be easier to destroy underfoot. But like a plane gets fucked up by them. The girl gets on a plane. Her plane almost crash lands. That happens to Brad Pitt. She survives a train getting smashed up, and you just see the inside of the train, and there's people just destroyed into pieces. And I'm like, holy fuck! Maybe
she really is supposed to be Tommy. Like she can survive.
Right, that is. And it reminded me, the train crash reminded me of this other really fantastic book. It's a great comic book that I think you should read called Dragon Head, which is basically if Japan had a giant disaster. I'm not going to spoil what happens in that unless, because they made a movie adaptation.
Does it involve a dragon?
No. It deals with, there's like medical experiments done on people that their heads are shaved and they have like scars on their heads, so they call them dragon heads. But anyway... But the people survive a train wreck, and that in the first couple of books are just them stuck in this tunnel with a psychopath, and it's just like, I love that idea of just surviving all these human tragedies, and Japan has some real fucking tragedies going on. You know what I mean? Think about like the tsunamis and the earthquakes going on all the time.
Like a nuclear thing,
right? That thing, and that wasn't man-made at all, of course not. But in GYO, there's a lot of like chaos and destruction and people dying. I mean, you just see people get killed left and right in this, and Tadashi is taking back seats, so he's no longer a protagonist like he is in the book. So the purists of the manga, if you read the manga, just watch the film. Like, I wasn't as offended as I would be watching it.
I'm definitely gonna read the manga.
Yeah, I think you.
Better.
It is because the art. I mean, you get to appreciate the art, and you can see, where the ideas come from. So it is a little bit of a flat adaptation of the book, but it's still worth watching. It's only like an hour and 10 minutes. It's listed as 70 minutes on the IMDb, so it's not really anything that's, I mean, you can watch through it in a breeze. I saw it straight through, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, even for the changes that it had. I mean, it's kind of confusing, the changes.
It was fun, and it was short. I wish they could have maybe added 5 minutes to, like, explain the ending a bit more. It's so vague.
I think the ending is that they just kind of... I mean, they really don't have anywhere to go, because they show at the end of the film that the fish have invaded everywhere, and that it really is this...
It really is this... kind of vaguely imply that maybe it's over.
I don't think so.
The smell might fade eventually, because she says she's used to it now, or whatever.
I think that's more of a giving up, like, we're fucked kind of scenario, because they show United States all fucked up, they show India, they show France all messed up, and I think that's basically them just kind of succumbing to the world being destroyed.
We should continue overfishing the oceans.
That's true, because if you really think about it, like, if you really think about how giant the world is and the water, and there's so much shit going on that we don't know about, can you imagine if all fish just were able to come up to, land?
Can you imagine those lanternfish, the anglers or whatever?
Oh my god. Is that the one that has the fish that has, like, the little lantern hanging over its head, Finding Nemo and stuff?
Imagine that thing, like, chasing you around.
Oh my god. Imagine the great wart. Right, fuck that.
Chase me around. That thing's like a dinosaur.
I know, that's like, it's frightening. It's just the idea of, I mean, there's a whole universe that's underneath us that we don't know, just because we're up here.
Most of the world is water, actually. Like, it's pretty scary.
But that made sense for the aliens in science to come through, right? Because they were allergic to water, but they were like, fuck it, let's go here anyway.
How did the Wicked Witch survive with all the water around? Did it never rain on her?
She must have smelled. Oh, God, she must have smelled.
Right.
Those monkeys were like, fuck this bitch.
Didn't she never get a raindrop on her,
I guess, listen, that's called bad writing.
Maybe rainwater doesn't do it. It has to be water from a cup.
Who wrote that? The Wizard of Oz, what's his face? Frank L. Baum, is that his name?
I don't know.
He probably was just like, he was like eating opium sandwiches. He was like, oh, fuck it. And he just kind of wrote the ending. And got like a
gap at the end. Like, whatever.
And then he probably like put a quarter to see a monkey dance and shit. That was it. And now he's not even making. He probably didn't even make like 5 shillings off of that book, because now they're making it like a Broadway musical and shit. And he's in hell, like mad, because he made Wicked a musical. He's like, arg, all mad in hell with his handlebar mustache and flames. Anyway, so GYO Tokyo Fish Attack, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good for an animated film. It's short. It has a bunch of destruction and death and horror and asshole. Those guards are assholes. They're just like pointing guns at young girls that are looking for their boyfriends. They're just like,
what would you rate this?
I would give it it's a watchable 7. So I was gonna give it a 6, but a 7. And I would probably give it higher, but I gotta be true to my roots, brother. I'll give it a
What?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Getting kicked in the face by a bitch, then kicking the bitch back in the face, then falling into a pit of fish, and then asking her to help you out. The triple irony. What about you?
Oh, that was fine. Yeah, you know what? From now on, I'm rating it first.
Go ahead.
All right, I agree with you. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Damn it. I was going to say fat girl getting her sweet, sweet revenge only to have revenge taken upon her.
That's incredibly lazy of you, Danny. How about
I'll think of another one. Okay.
How about being a schoolgirl and farting?
Girl that was once hot, now bloated and fat, and having tubes stuck up her butt as she farts out vile-smelling death gas.
What about the amazing visual of a Japanese schoolgirl who's plumped up to 4 times her size, and farting and belching at the same time that she's spinning in a circle? That was pretty good. All right. So if Danny,
that's a pretty good rating.
So Danny, what's the final word?